Hey everyone, welcome back to Nomad programming. In the last few videos we talked about some important HTML elements for working with text. Today we're diving into another key element, the image element. Images add life to your web page, making your content more meaningful, and honestly they're way more eye-catching than plain text. But before we begin, if you like the channel's content, please don't forget to subscribe and to enable the notification bell to get the channel's latest updates, and feel free to add a comment or a suggestion in the comment section below. Alright, let's dive in. What is the image element in HTML? The image element is used to embed images in a web page. It's an inline level element and does not have a closing tag because it's a self-closing element. Also, the image element is a void element. Void elements, like the image element, doesn't have content within two opening and a closing tag. For instance, when we add paragraph element, you will start by adding the opening tag, then you close it with the closing tag, and in between both of the tags you will type your text, right? Void elements, like the image element, you don't have an opening or a closing tag. So we will add the image path within the image element itself by adding the source attribute. Void elements are designed for single-use, self-contained functionality. Their structure makes it clear at a glance that they don't contain content, and they're used to insert something, not to wrap around other content. From early on, browsers were written to treat void elements specially. Forcing them to have closing tags would have added complexity to the rendering engines and break millions of pages already worked. HTML is also meant to be forgiving. The simplicity of void elements supports that goal. You might have seen some versions of the image element with a slash before the closing bracket. So what's that about? In HTML5 or modern HTML, the forward slash at the end of the image tag is optional. It does not affect the behavior of the image or cause any errors. The style comes from XHTML, older HTML standard, and is still allowed in HTML5 for compatibility, but it is unnecessary. So if you're writing XHTML or XML based code, you must use the slash to close void elements like the image element. In pure HTML5, it's purely optional and typically not recommended for clean modern HTML. Now, is the image element a semantic element? A semantic element clearly describes its meaning and role in the document structure to both the browsers and developers. For example, we have seen the header element. It defines the header section of a page. Also, the article element, which represents a self-contained piece of content. The image element, however, doesn't describe the meaning or structure of the content. Instead, it simply embeds visual content into the document. How the image element becomes meaningful. The semantic value of an image comes from the context in which it's used and the alternative attribute. This makes the image useful for accessibility, like screen readers and search engines. Great! Now let's jump to VS Code so we can demonstrate the image element. So we're going to create a very simple page that contains an image. So first we will add the main title for the page. I will just going to type h1 element. I will type cute animals, for example. Then I will add an article element that will contain some information about our first animal. I will just give it a subtitle. The user will learn about fennec fox, for example. Then I will type a small description for the fox by adding the paragraph element. Great! So now we need something visual so the user can actually know how does fennec fox looks like. So we will need an image. To add an image, I will add the image element. You see how the element have only an opening tag. To add the image inside the tag between the brackets, I will add the source attribute. The attribute from its name will import the image from where the image is located. And now you can see how the image is displayed on the browser. Okay, now as a user, I can understand what is this image about thanks for the simple text above. Without providing some text for it, it's just a random image on a page. But still, the image element itself contains only visual content. In this case, the fox image, and it have no other semantic meaning. To give the element some meaning, I will add the alternative attribute and I will type a small description. Now the image is meaningful for screen readers and search engines. When does the image have semantic importance? Although the image element itself is not semantic, we can wrap it in semantic elements like figure and figure caption to provide context. I will explain these elements in detail on the next video. How the image element affects the document layout. Inline by default. The image element is an inline element, meaning it behaves like text and flows within a line of content. It can cause layout shifts if not properly sized. Now I will add a new paragraph element and type within it just few text. This is some random text, for example. Also, I will add an image within the paragraph element just after the text. As you can see, the image is placed in line within the text. That's why it's called an inline element. I will type some more text after the image element as well. You can see how the image is behaving as if it was with the text same flow. Now that's great and all, but if we type more, you will notice something. So what is happening if the image is taller than the text? It will appear misaligned or cause weird spacing or shifting between lines. As you add more text, the image styles in line, but the flow might look awkward. It can push the line up or down, making it visually awkward. Now this can be fixed by adding some style to the image, and by styling I mean CSS. There are some CSS styles like vertical align, middle, or display block. They will treat the image as a block or floated element, or will remove the image from the text flow entirely. But in this example, you can see none of the fixes are working because the image height is way larger than the text. The best way to fix is to wrap the image and text separately. For example, adding a div element, then within it add the image element, then a paragraph element. Just a quick note, if you're adding a large image, make it separate from the text. But if you want to add small images like an icon or an emoji, as you can see here, you can add it within the same text because its height will be small, meaning it will align with the text normally. So there will not be any shifting. Why and when do we use images? First, to improve user experience and visual appeal, and to convey information more effectively. Also to showcase products, portfolios, or infographics, and for branding and marketing purposes. We use it when the image adds value to the content, not just for decoration, and when visual context helps users understand the content better, and when on e-commerce sites, portfolio pages, blog posts, and so on. So where to add images on a page? The image element can be added anywhere on the page, but here are a few examples where you can add an image element. First, in the header for logos or hero images. In the main content for article, illustrations, product images, or infographics. In the sidebar for thumbnails or navigation images, in the footer for brand logos or icons. Now, images have types. So here are a few types of images. First, we start with the JPEG or JPG, which is best for photographs. What is it? It's a highly popular format for photographs and complex images. It offers good compression, meaning small file size without significant quality loss. When do we use it? For photos, backgrounds, and large images where transparency isn't needed. Its file size usually between 100 kilobytes and 500 kilobytes. For optimized web photos, this format have few advantages, like smaller file size compared to PNG format or supported by all browsers, and great for photos and detailed images. Its disadvantages, though, it doesn't have any transparency support, and its slight quality loss due to compression, especially after multiple edits. The second format, which is the PNG format, it's best for graphics with transparency, a lossless format that supports transparency and high image quality. It is ideal for images that requires transparency like logos or high quality graphics. So when do we use it? For logos, icons, and graphics with sharp edges. Its file size typically larger than JPEG, ranging from 100 kilobytes to 2 megabytes, depending on the image detail. Its advantages like supports transparency, of course, and no loss of quality. Its disadvantage, though, the larger file size than JPEG. A third format, which is the SVG or scalable vector graphics. It is best for logos and icons. A vector-based format that scales perfectly at any size without quality loss. It is used because it's resolution independent, perfect for responsive web design. When do we use it? For logos, icons, charts, and graphics that need to scale without distortion. Its file size usually very small, under 50 kilobytes, since it's just code describing shapes. Its advantages, it's an infinite scalability without losing quality, and small file size for simple graphics. Also, it is easy to animate with CSS and JavaScript, but it's not ideal for complex images like photos. Now on to our next format, which is the GIF, and it is best for simple animations. An older format supporting simple animations and transparency for small animations like loading indicators, memes, or decorative elements. When do we use it? We use it for animated elements. Avoid using for static images or photos due to poor compression. Its file size varies between 100 kilobyte to 5 megabyte plus, depending on animation length and frames. Its advantages, it supports animations obviously, and it's simple to create, but it's limited to 256 colors, resulting in lower image quality, and its large file sizes for longer animations. WebP. It is best for modern web design. What is a WebP format? It's a modern image format developed by Google that offers high compression and quality. It combines the best of JPEG and PNG, smaller file sizes with transparency and high quality support. We use it for photos, graphics, and any images on modern websites. Its file size 30 to 50% smaller than JPEG or PNG, with with the same quality. So that means it have many advantages. Smaller file size, reduced load time, supports transparency and animation, excellent for search engine optimization and performance. But it is not supported by very old browsers like Internet Explorer. And finally, we have the AVIF format or AV1 image file format. It is a modern image format designed for ultra efficient compression and high image quality, making it even more optimized than WebP in many cases. It is used for photos, backgrounds, and web graphics. Its compression way much better than JPEG and WebP. Its file size ranges between 50 to 70% smaller than JPEG and WebP at similar quality. It supports transparency like PNG and HDR, high dynamic range, and animations like GIF and WebP. It provides excellent compression and quality. It has a very small file size. It fully supports transparency and animation. It is ideal for responsive and high performance websites. But it have limited support in some browsers, especially old ones. And it's slower encoding speed than WebP or JPEG. Now, as you can see, images have many different formats, and you will need to choose which format is best suited for your page. The image element have attributes. We've seen few before, but now we will delve deeper into them. First, we have the source attribute. The source attribute specifies the path to the image file. Without it, the image won't display. The path can be either relative or absolute. Relative path refers to an image in the same directory or a subdirectory. Absolute path refers to the complete URL of an image hosted online. Now we have an alternative attribute or the alternative text. The alternative attribute provides a text description of the image. This is critical for accessibility and SEO. For screen readers to read the alternative text, if the image fails to load, the alternative text is displayed and search engines index the alternative text. Now we have the attributes width and height. These attributes specify the size of the image in pixels or percentage. Setting these helps prevent layout shifts while the image loads. So here are few units to use with the width and height attribute. First we have pixels, which is the absolute size. Then the percentage, which is the relative size, based on the parent container's width. Without dimensions, the image resizes automatically, which may cause layout shifts. With dimensions, the space for the image is reserved in advance. It is best practice to maintain the same aspect ratio, width to height ratio, as the original image when displaying it on a web page. So why do we keep the same width and height as the original? First, to avoid distortion. If the width and height attributes differ from the original size but don't maintain the aspect ratio, the image may appear squashed or stretched. Second, to preserve image quality. Resizing images, especially increasing size, can reduce quality and make the image blurry or pixelated. And performance optimization. Displaying images at their original size or smaller ensures they look sharp without wasting resources. Loading a large image and displaying it smaller can unnecessarily slow down your site. So when can you change a width and height? First, scaling down. Reducing the dimensions is usually safe and won't degrade quality. For example, if the original image is 1000 pixel by 800 pixel, you can safely resize it to 500 pixel by 400 pixels without distortion. Responsive design. For modern web design, you will often want images to scale automatically automatically to fit different devices. Instead of setting width and height directly, we use CSS to make images responsive. When to specify width and height attributes in HTML? When you want to prevent layout shifts. Modern browsers use these attributes to reserve space for images before they load, which prevents content from jumping around. It improves core web vitals. And use exact dimensions when size is fixed for icons or small images where size doesn't change based on screen size. When can you ignore original dimensions? If the image is being used for a design element and exact proportions doesn't matter, like background image, you can freely change its size using CSS. Just ensure it still looks and serves the intended purpose. The title attribute. The title attribute adds a tooltip that appears when you hover over the image. When do we use it? For additional context about the image and to display hints or descriptions. Now we have another attribute, which is the loading attribute. The loading attribute specifies how and when the image should load. It improves performance by delaying image loading. It has two values, lazy and eager. Lazy loads the image only when it's about to enter the viewport, best for below the fold images. Eager loads the image immediately, which is the default behavior. It improves performance on pages with lots of images. Next, we have the decoding attribute. The decoding attribute tells the browser how to handle image decoding, which means how and when the image is processed and displayed on the page. This affects how fast your page is rendered. When the browser loads an image, it needs to decode it or to process it and then to display it. The image data, depending on how it is done, it can either slow down the page rendering if done immediately, which means it's blocking other content from showing, or it improves performance if done in the background without affecting the page main content. The decoding option. First, the synchronous. The browser decodes the image right away, even if it slows down the rendering of the rest of the page. When do we use it? For critical images that must appear immediately, like a logo or a hero image. But it has a drawback. It may cause the image to render slower, especially if the image is large. The next option is asynchronous. The browser decodes the image in the background, allowing the page to keep rendering other content without waiting for the image. When do we use it? For non-critical images. For example, images lower on the page or decorative images. Its benefit, it improves overall page speed and user experience. And the final option, which is the default option, is auto. The browser decides when to decode the image based on its internal logic and priorities. This is a safe default as the browser makes an optimized choice for each image. Now, why these options are important? Well, for page performance. It can improve performance by allowing the page to load and display faster. And of course, user experience for smoother rendering without waiting for non-essential images. So just a fast recap, when do we use each option? The decoding asynchronous is recommended for most cases. It improves performance and perceived speed. Page loads and renders without waiting for the image to fully decode. It is best for non-critical images like the below the fold thumbnails. Decoding synchronous forces the browsers to wait for decoding before rendering. It might be useful if you need an image to appear instantly and correctly aligned with layout. It can block rendering and hurt performance, so use wisely. Decoding auto lets the browser browser decides which is the safest default. Now another attribute we can use for the image element is the cross-origin attribute. So what is the cross-origin attribute? When your HTML page loads an image or video script and so on from another website, your browser needs to decide should it send cookies and login info with requests, or should it block the image or allow it. The cross-origin attribute helps control the situations. So why it's needed? Imagine you're building a website that displays images from another website. Sometimes that website needs to know who you are, for example if you are logged in, and sometimes it doesn't. The browser needs to know how careful it should be when sending requests across different sites. That's where cross-origin comes in. It has two common values, anonymous and use credentials. Anonymous, it tells the browser don't send cookies or login information, just grab the image publicly like any visitor. Use this when the image is public. Now the image will load but no personal or sensitive information is sent to the other site. Use credential value. This tells the browser send cookies and login information. Use this if the image is private and the other site checks your identity. So when do we use both? Use cross-origin anonymous when loading public images from a different domain, or use the credential only if you need to access protected content like user photo from a login protected server. And this leads us to another important attribute, which is the refer policy attribute. When your web page loads something like an image from another site, your browser tells the site, hey, this request is coming from your page URL. This is called the referrer. So why does this matter? Sometimes you don't want other sites to know exactly which page requested the image, or if your page has private info in the URL. Refer policy lets you choose how much of your page information should be shared. Now, this attribute also have values. No referrer, which means it sends nothing to the other website. Use this to hide everything. Or we have the next value, which is origin. It sends only your domain name, not the full page URL. Hides the path or query in the URL. For example, if your page URL have information within the same path, like the profile username, the other site, when you use the origin, will only see your page domain, but not the other information. Another attribute which is no referrer when downgrade, which is the default actually for this attribute. It sends full information only if both sites used HTTPS, which means both sites have to be secured. If your site is HTTPS, meaning secured, and the image is, let's say, not secured, then nothing will be sent. You won't need to write this unless you want to be explicit. So a fast recap: the cross-origin attribute controls whether to send login information when loading external images, and the refer policy controls what page information is sent to other sites. Okay, so by now we understand how the width and height attributes works. They define the display size in pixels of an image on the page, not the actual file size, and we add these attributes to scale images visually without changing the actual image file. Also, it helps the browsers reserve space before the image loads to prevent layout shifts. Now here are two more attributes regarding image size. Their purpose is not actually the same as width and height attributes. First, we have source set attribute. It mainly tells the browser that there are different versions of this same image. Pick the right one based on screen size. So the source set attribute specifies multiple image sources for different screen size or resolution. This ensures that users get the best image for their device without overloading the page with large files. So in this example over here, you can see the 480W. This version is 480 pixels wide. The W means pixel wide. The browser will pick small.jpg for phones, medium.jpg for tablets, large.jpg for desktops. So when do we use it? When mobile users get smaller images, means they need faster loads, or desktop users to get high-res images, which means better quality. And this leads us to the final attribute, which is the sizes, and this is used with the source set. Sizes tells the browser how big the image will be on the page. When used with source set attribute, the browser doesn't just guess which file to use. It looks at sizes to know how much space the image will take visually. So how does this work? In this example, if the screen is smaller than 600 pixel or equals to, the browser thinks the image will take 480 pixel space. Then it will choose the small.jpg. If the screen is smaller or equals to 1200 pixels, the browser thinks the image will take 1024 pixels. It will choose the medium.jpg. Otherwise, it assumes that it needs 1600 pixel, which means it will pick the large.jpg. Now here's an example showing how the source set and sizes works using real free CDN hosted images in different sizes. This will help you see the difference between responsive loading for mobile versus desktop. So in this example, as you can see, if it's less than or equal to 600 pixels width, it will load the 480 pixel wide image, and at, let's say, less than 900 pixels, it will load the 800 pixel image. If it's larger than 900 pixels, it will load the 1200 pixel version. So the browser picks the best file, balancing quality and performance. This helps a lot with speed, especially for mobile users. Now here are common mistakes and errors. First, missing the alternative attribute. It is critical for accessibility and search engine optimization, so please try not to forget the alternative attribute. Incorrect source path. This happens a lot. If the path or the source path will lead to broken images, then the images will not be displayed on your page. So always double check the file path. Large unoptimized images slows down page loading time. Use appropriate formats and compressions to speed up your page loading. Not using width and height attribute causes layout shifts, so remember each time you need to use the width and height attributes. Using images as backgrounds when not necessary. Background images are for decorative purposes, not for the main content. Okay, we have reached the end of today's video. I hope it was useful. Thank you all for watching.